Welcome to Non-Beta Alpha. I'm Ryan Morfin. And on today's episode, we have Paolo Mafredini from Torino, Italy, calling to tell us a little bit about what's going on the ground in Italy. There's been good news recently out of Italy that the new infection rate is slowing, but the death toll is still growing. And so he is a few weeks ahead of the U.S. and has been, with the rest of his compatriots, on lockdown for the last 4 weeks. We're going to talk to him today on Non-Beta Alpha.
I guess I didn't know. I guess I didn't know.
Paolo, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Well, so you're up in Torino. So what football club do you support, firstly?
I'm a Torino supporter. That is the smallest football team in Torino, because in Turin we have another one much more famous, that is Juventus. But I'm a Torino supporter. And
fantastic.
We are always making a big fight between the two teams.
I'm sure the league is suspended, and I'm sure it's making people bored out of their minds. I know there's no sports here in the U.S., and it has slowed down society a bit. Well, would love to chat with you a little bit about...
The league is suspended, but it's still not finished. They still didn't decide if the season is finished. They took time until the second half of May to decide if you are enough time to make to finish the league or not. So it's still not decided that. Belgium, for example, said, okay, the league is finished, and but we are still waiting to take a decision.
Yeah, I know it's going to impact Liverpool and the Brits as well. There's some amazing seasons going on that have been suspended, but Italian football is something I watch on the weekends, and so I was disappointed to see the suspension, but it makes a lot of sense. So, Paolo, you've been ahead of the curve. Unfortunately, your country was one of the first severely hit. Over the last few weeks, you guys have been locked down on quarantine. You work at a commercial bank in Torino, and how has your day been affected? Are you still going to work every day? Are you part of the critical infrastructure of employees that go to work? Tell us a little bit about what's going on the ground.
Yes, allora, as you said, we are on the top of the curve, but we still have to wait probably a few days to see number going down. And now is about nearly 3 weeks. 3 weeks there we are in lockdown, we are in quarantine. And everything, when I go out in the morning go to work, fortunately I go by walk because my job is 10 minutes walk from where I live. Everything is completely unreal. The streets are empty. If I meet someone when I walk, you try to avoid, and stay few meter distance. And even when I enter the branch basically has been divided into two groups. One day one group's work, and the other group stay at home, and the next day the opposite. And we can't meet and we can't mix. So one day I work and one day I stay at home in let's say smart learning or smart training. And but when we are in the branch, everything is completely changed. It's completely different. It's like to work during a war. Basically, we are in a war. We are in a war, but it's a completely unusual war because we don't know our enemy.
So you've been literally going to work. Your bank's been open. During the first few weeks, did people come to your bank and try to pull all their money out? Was there a run to grab cash and currency in euros?
No. We didn't have that. I heard that someone in other branches little episode like that happens, but no, basically no. For sure, a lot of people wanted to exit investment after the crash of the financial market. We had, when I say that I exit, when I walk in the street, I feel like a war. I feel like to be in a war. There's another war on the financial market, and you know better than me.
Yeah, no, the markets are severely impacted by this. We'll call it consumer destruction, demand destruction, but we're optimistic that it'll bounce back, even in Italy, and we're hoping you guys bounce back first.
Yeah. A lot of people, for sure, at the beginning was the panic selling. Most of them want to exit investment, but maybe it's the worst decision. You have to wait. Time will solve this situation.
Yeah, I believe it'll rebound here in the coming weeks ahead. One question I have for you, since it's part of your day job, what have your bosses or the companies talked to you guys about in terms of touching money and all that? I mean, do you have to wear gloves and masks at work, or is it not that big of a deal and you guys are distanced away from the customers, the retail customers?
Allora, to be honest, the bank just give us a special soap for wash our hands. So I do it 5, 6, 10 times per day. But no, if we wear gloves, some of my colleagues is wearing gloves and mask, but it is their own gloves and their own mask. I do, I keep the distance from the clients. Always not 1 meter, as people says, 3-4 meters, because I think that 1 meter is not enough. I have a mask that I use sometimes. I have a mask that I use sometimes, but I have just 2. So in 10 days, 2 masks are not enough. But it's impossible to buy one at the moment.
You could be careful, but if you put it in the oven at 158 degrees Fahrenheit, it should be warm enough to kill the virus, but you got to make sure it doesn't go up in flames, because some of the masks are flammable. So, but a lot of doctors in the U.S. are doing that. They're putting their garments in the oven to cook them to kill the virus. But so you guys are ahead of the curve globally. Unfortunately, one of the first countries to go through this terrible tragedy. Do you think does the general population think that the numbers that you're going through are the right numbers? Are they believable? Or is there skepticism based on what you see from, ancillary, evidence?
Numbers are completely wrong. I mean, when they say in Italy we have 100,000 people infected, is it true? But there may be 1 million infected. They didn't do the test, so we don't know if they are infected or not. What is sure is that in Italy we start to die of coronavirus since January. The first official case was at the beginning of February, but and the area near Milan at the moment is the Brost area, no? And the doctor of the area said that in the second part of January they saw a massive increase of pneumonia, no? A massive increase of pneumonia in the last second part, but 2-3 times than normal, and probably was already coronavirus. But if we don't do the test, we didn't do the test at the time, so no one can say that. But it's sure that we start dying of coronavirus since January. Like it's true that probably this virus is born in China since probably November, but the officiality went in January. So the numbers are much bigger than the official one when we get from the news and then TV and everything. And and the doctor says that the 60-70% of the people is symptomless. So probably at the moment I have the coronavirus, but I don't have any symptoms.
You don't know.
So, everyone. So numbers is sure are much bigger. Then yes.
Well, and
we are in the top of the curve. We hope number is going down, but the lockdown will be still long.
Yeah, I think 2 days ago you guys had 3,800 new tested infections, and then I guess less than 2 days ago you guys went down to 1,650. So, a few days is not a trend, but it's. I'm praying to God that it is going to continue to decrease over time. But that's very interesting about the timeline that people are starting to talk about and starting to look back at data, and that would suggest there's talk out of China that. In November, there was an issue at one of the facilities, the virology facilities. So we are starting not to believe the storyline that this happened at the fish market in Wuhan. I think there's something more that's going on, and we'll talking to a lot of interesting people in Asia about that. But so how has the European Union, have they been supporting you guys since you guys have been the first ones to go through the crisis? Do the Italian people feel like the EU has stepped in a major way, or have you guys been kind of on your own to deal with it as an Italian crisis?
This is another big issue. Until yesterday, we can say yes. Until yesterday, the European community was completely absent. There was Italy was asking to make more debt for paying people without work, for support companies, but Italy was asking since 3 weeks, but basically we didn't have an answer. Just from yesterday, something is moving, but I think that something is moving after maybe 40,000 people. That, for me personally, it's a late answer. It's a too late answer, no? And and so we will see what happens in the next few days. But we need to make more debt. We need to change the rules that relates all the countries in the European community. But yes.
Yeah, no, there's talk in the finance circles about doing specialty Corona bonds for places like Italy that have been hit hard, Spain, Greece, and I'm hoping they get the support they need, because you're right, it's really money needs to get flowed to the people in the community that have not been able to work so they can pay their bills and buy food. Speaking of food in the grocery stores, have you guys had access to food? I mean, I love Italian food. I know Italians love their food. Have you guys had access to good food supply, or has it been hard to find food over the last few weeks?
No. But restaurants and bars are closed. But we are lucky, because in the supermarket we can always find good quality food. We have no problem of supermarkets are always full. So for that we don't have any problem. We have to cook at home.
Yeah, but I think Italians enjoy home cooked food. So you guys, you're better at it than us Americans, I would say. Well, the political component of this, has the Italian government been unified as one government through this whole process, or has politics crept into the conversation on how to deal with the policy here?
Ryan, when we talk about Italian politics and stuff like that, is always a difficult field, I think. I think that at the moment we have a very good prime minister. That is a person that I'm happy to send abroad and speak about my country, And at the moment, the opposition, there's some people that I really don't like, and I'm lucky that for the moment our prime minister is managing the difficult situation. And for sure now is doing things step by step, little things, because still we don't have the total support of the European community. But I hope that in few days, few weeks, everything is going to change, and we will have more freedom about decision to solve this problem, to this crisis.
And so I hear that if you want to go outside to go grocery shopping or walk around, is it true you have to file a report with the police department online, or how do you have to get a permit to go outside? Or is that any truth to that?
Okay. everyone that go outside has to carry with him a little piece of paper. I declare that I'm going out and I can go out for 4 reasons: for work, for go to make some shopping, supermarket shopping, for medical reason, or something very, very important that I have to go out. And I can do little jogging, but just, this is funny, the 4th street around my building. So it's a little bit, it's a bit boring jogging because the panorama is always the same, no?
Well, that's more exercise than I've been getting.
Okay, but
Well,
it's very boring. But if you don't have this piece of paper, the police has always the paper and take you the declaration. If the declaration is okay, you're safe. Otherwise, you can get a fine.
and are they taking temperatures of customers at retail stores? Have they started doing anything like that, like they're doing in China?
They starting some episode of that, but no, for the moment, no. For the moment, no. But in the south, a couple of episodes like that are happened. Yes.
And what are the local, journalists and medical professionals saying? I mean, Italy seems to be hit very hard. The way they explain it to us here in the U.S. is that your population demographics, you have a lot of older Italians, and they're more susceptible. Is that the way that they're describing it to you, or is there something else going on?
No, I think it's true. I think it's true. We have a very old population, and but I don't think it's the only reason. But I don't know what is the other reason. That's a problem. For example, in Germany, they have a lot of infected people, a lot, but the dead one are less than 1%. We are about 5% of the infected. So it's a massive difference. It's a massive difference. That we are an old population, yeah, it's true, but it's not, cannot be the only reason. Yes.
Well, it brings up the next question I have is the health systems are different. And I know in the UK, they have a nationalized health system, and we're going to see, unfortunately, how that fares in a crisis like this. And then Germany has a very distributed model where it's very decentralized. So they have a lot of independent centers. How is the health system set up in Italy? Is it one system run by one government, or is it done by states or cities, or how is it organized?
Okay, let's say until about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, our health system was an excellence in the world, and was everything managed by the government, the central government. Then in the last 15 years, they start to cut everywhere, and the managing of this, the health and everything has been divided by region. Italy is divided in 21 regions, so it's been delegated to each region. But they start to cut money, like, they start to cut money like too much, and now the problem is that we have a few beds for intense care, and people ill of this coronavirus needs intense care, and we are building new places for intense care, but our care was an excellence. Now is no more an excellence. Everything is turning to private, like can happen in United States or in England or in other country. So we have a problem about central care.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I was in Europe for part of the financial crisis, and do you think perhaps the European Union's austerity measures that they put into Greece, Italy, and Spain maybe were too severe, and they impeded the ability for Italy to continue to stand up infrastructure to really provide for a pandemic like this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think so because since the beginning of the European Union, we are getting poorest and poorest and poorest and poorest years by years. Yeah, absolutely. Is a European community is let me say is a German-oriented community, and country like Italy, like Spain, and like Greece is sometimes in a difficult situation for pay all their interest and everything that for example, Christine Lagarde, the head of Central European Bank, few days ago said, when in Italy it was in complete chaos about this virus, said, central bank is not here for manage the spread between the Italian bonds and German bonds, So the spread went up to the stars, and our stock exchange market lose 17% in one day. and then after a few days, she said, "No, maybe I was a bit wrong." But that's the reason. Everything is German oriented in the European community. So
Yeah, I believe this type of a crisis will probably wake up politicians and policymakers and the population about, maybe redefining what those relationships look like. I think it's going to be an interesting, the day after this has passed us, it's going to be an interesting economic conversation for people to have about, how much control they've given to a federalist body versus states' rights. But, it's interesting. So the European banking system has been living with negative interest rates for a while. And, how do you see what a lot of our people in America, we just can't wrap our heads around negative interest rates. Maybe you can explain what that means. Is it customers pay the bank to keep their money there? They pay them an interest rate to keep the money safe? Or how does negative interest rates affect kind of the, Main Street Italian consumer?
The negative interest, the only effect is that if you had a mortgage 15 years ago, you pay 10% interest, now you pay 1%. And for a loans, you will pay 15%, and now you pay 4% for loans. And so the gain of the bank related with the interest is very low. If you see the balance of a European bank, the end of the year balance of a European bank in the last 3 years, the commissional part is higher than the interested part, than the interest part. And this is never happened in 500 years history of banks. never happened. So.
And have you seen any increase in loan defaults? I mean, obviously they're coming globally because of what's happened to the economy. But before we were getting into this crisis, end of 2019, how was the credit market in Italy? Were you starting to see more defaults in the market, or was it still pretty good growth going on?
No, we had a lot of defaults, maybe related with crisis in 2008, 2009. So the bank had a lot of default from 2008 in the next years, but in the last 2-3 years they have been able to clean all the balance from these defaults. But now probably they will restart to have other in their balance. So since before the coronavirus, all the banks they've been able to clean all the let's say the bad part of these loans. But with this crisis, for sure, they will have others.
Yeah, no, this inability to go to work and inability to go out and consume is going to put a lot of companies under severe pressure. And what has the government done?
You can imagine the tourism in Italy now is zero. Zero.
That's unfortunate.
We have some friends who were trying to go there right before you guys shut the country down. And I was trying to tell them not to go because you don't want to be stuck there if there's a problem. But thankfully they didn't go. But a lot of people were literally getting on flights almost ready to go to the airport and take off right up into the day you guys closed the country. And so I'm sure people will be coming back to Italy. You're going to have an avalanche of people once we figure out how to treat this virus, because I think people are waking up to the fact that maybe tomorrow doesn't come, and you better seize the day and go on vacation and stop working so much. I think that's one thing that's kind of paused people, is the fragility of life.
That will happen for sure, but at the moment I can't say when.
Yeah, it could be up to a year away.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm more afraid about this virus, thinking a bit more worried, thinking about the future than tomorrow, what is going to happen tomorrow. No, I'm much more afraid and worried about the future than today, what's going to happen today or tomorrow. So I hope that what you said will come soon. But
yeah, I think we're in choppy waters. I think it's going to be, several waves that come through the global system. I mean, Africa is just starting to get it, and that's going to come. South America is just starting to get it. It's going to come back to us. So we've got to find a permanent, viral treatment
or a vaccine so we can shave it to the world.
Yes.
But yeah, no. So the question I have for you too is, what food do you like besides Italian food? What is your number 2 favorite food? Because I've never met an Italian that says Italian's not his favorite.
But what's the number 2 favorite food?
Maybe let's say the Oriental food, because it's very different for our food. So they have different taste, and so maybe Oriental food. I don't want to say Chinese because I really like even the Thai one, no? The Thai food.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Say Oriental.
Well, that's interesting.
Interesting question. One of the storylines that I've heard from people about, trying to figure out how it got to Europe, and is there any truth or is there any conversations about this, that it was the Milan fashion show that had brought all these people globally together? And, did the virus epicenter start in Italy, in Milan, or what part of the country did it start in? And what's the conversation around how it first popped up in Italy?
Okay. Yes, the area around Milan, for sure, at the moment is the one with the highest number of cases of coronavirus, and more than the Fashion Week, that for sure was exactly in those days, and there's a city near Milan that is called Bergamo, and where there was a massive number of people, because the football team of Bergamo had an historical result in UEFA League against Valencia, a Spanish football team, and they played in Bergamo. So there was thousands of supporters that had 2 days party in the street with thousands of people in the street. And so Bergamo, after 2 weeks, was really the worst city in Italy. And I saw something on TV that for me will be very difficult to forget, because Bergamo is a city of about 1,000 or 120,000 people. No, so it's a little city, and in a week they had more than 1 people died. So there was 1,000 coffin to manage, no, and there was a so big number that they called the army. The army arrived with trucks, and there were images of a line of trucks of the army full of barrels to bring out of the city. When I saw that, I said, wow. So the situation,
that's a sobering,
the situation
sobering moment.
But Milano Fashion Week, football result, and a lot of, Milan is always a chaos. I can imagine even New York. There's 1,000 millions of people walking in the street every day. So it's
Well, what did you guys have a lot of trade or a lot of business with China? Because it popped up in China, and then it popped up in Iran, and then it popped up in Italy. Um, what kind of economic or travel relationship with Northern Italy and China exists? Is there a very strong tie?
all the relation we have is all the made in Italy. It is not just fashion; it's furniture, is quality in general. Everyone likes made in Italy, so we have strong relation with a lot of country. Yes.
Yeah, and speaking of, Russia sent doctors and hospital supplies. Was that meaningful, or was it political? Meaning, did they really step up and send doctors to get involved in taking care of patients, or was it just a cargo plane full of supplies?
Okay. Allora, first of all, we have to say thanks to each country that helps us. The first thing I have to say is thanks. If we talk about Russia, we have to specify something, because Russia didn't send doctors. Russia sent special corps of the army trained for bacteriological war. They send the top they had, and but someone says that most of them are doctors from the army against bacteriological war, like that. But a lot of them are secret agent from that are in Italy to check how is the situation. It's something a little bit strange. People is talking about that. I don't know the truth, but first of all, we have to say thanks, because they are working for us. So they are working for us.
Yes.
But, there's some political reason in the back that that we don't know. They're too
Yeah, no, I think any help, anybody who's willing to put the gloves on and help out at a hospital today is a hero. And so take all the help we can get. New York City's the same way.
They are more than doctors; they are special forces. So
yeah,
for us,
well, they've sent the doctors would have been enough. Yes, but they sent the special forces doctors. Well, yeah, in New York they also sent some supplies as well, and they've been helping out where they can. But it's good, and hopefully some of the world leaders start to look at this opportunity as a way to get past differences and focus on helping each other through this crisis. Because I don't think we're anywhere near out of the woods yet, unfortunately. But well, Paolo, I really appreciate you joining us today and talking to us about what's going on in Italy. And I'm optimistic that you guys are starting to come down from the peak, and we'll be watching and praying for you guys. And thank you so much, and stay safe.
Okay, thanks, Ryan. It's been a pleasure to talk with you, and a big hug to all the Americans.
We love Italy and America. Yes, everything will be okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Non-Beta Alpha. And before we go, please remember to subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or our YouTube channel. This is Non-Beta Alpha. Now you know.